She was the queen of the Grand Ole Opry until they tried to erase her. But she kept the receipts, every name, every threat. And now the truth is out. For 60 years, Jeannie Seely smiled on stage while the walls backstage whispered warnings. She wore the gowns, won the awards, and made history as the first woman to regularly host the Grand Ole Opry. But behind all that glitter was a room she never meant to talk about, until now. This is the story of Room 6B, and the night country music nearly lost Jeannie Seely forever. For 60 years, Jeannie Seely smiled on stage while the walls backstage whispered warnings. She wore the gowns, won the awards, and made history as the first woman to regularly host the Grand Ole Opry. But behind all that glitter was a room she never meant to talk about, until now. This is the story of Room 6B, and the night country music nearly lost Jeannie Seely forever. She was the queen of the stage, the first woman to regularly host the Grand Ole Opry. A voice that filled arenas, a smile that lit up every photo. But behind the curtain, Jeannie Seely was living a lie. For decades, fans saw the glitz, the gowns, the golden voice, but they didn't see the fear behind her eyes the night she burned her dress in the parking lot. They didn't see the letter she locked away with a line that read, "If I ever speak of this again, I'll be pulled from the stage before I finish my next verse." They didn't see Room 6B because they erased it. And for nearly 60 years, Jeannie kept her mouth shut. Until now, because at 90 years old, Jeannie Seely has nothing left to lose. And what she just revealed about the Opry could rip country music's polished legacy wide open. You think you know the Opry? You have no idea what they did to the women behind the music. Before the rhinestones, before the standing ovations, Jeannie was just a broke 21-year-old with calloused hands and a dream so wild it barely fit in her suitcase. She arrived in Nashville with nothing but a secondhand typewriter and a voice too big for her small-town world. She slept in borrowed beds, wrote songs on diner napkins, sang in dive bars where the drunks talked louder than the music. No agent, no connections, no plan B. But when she finally got her shot, she didn't play by the rules. They told her, no short skirts, no eyeliner, no back talk. She smiled and did it all anyway. She didn't sing heartbreak ballads that made you weep softly. She sang like a storm, guilt, lust, regret, power, every note a middle finger to the system. And the men running the Opry? They didn't know what to do with her. She was too good to cut, too bold to control, too smart to stay quiet. So they tried something else. They gave her bad time slots. They paired her with acts that mocked her behind her back. They whispered in the wings just loud enough for her to hear. She's a problem. But she kept showing up. Until one night, in the middle of a thunderstorm, the lights went out, and Jeannie Seely was handed a note with one line, Room 6B, 11:30 p.m. She'd never heard of it before. It wasn't on the maps. It wasn't in the blueprints. It wasn't supposed to exist. But what happened in that room changed her forever. They silenced legends. They erased rooms. They rewrote history and thought nobody would notice. But we kept the receipts. So if you're ready for the stories they buried, the ones they still hope no one finds, subscribe now. Because next time, we're naming names they never thought we'd say out loud. 1971, a thunderstorm hits Nashville hard. Power flickers at the Grand Ole Opry. The stage goes dim, just for a second. The audience laughs, claps, keeps sipping their drinks. But backstage, something shifts. A stagehand hands Jeannie a folded piece of paper. No message, no explanation. Just 3 characters scribbled in pen. 6B. She asks around. No one will talk. She checks the hallway list. Room 6B isn't on it. It's not on the blueprints. Not in the tour paths. But it's there. Past the dressing rooms. Past the storage closets. A single door. No nameplate. A brass knob. Behind it, a faint electric hum, like radio static or heavy breathing. She opens the door. 1 lamp, 1 chair, One man. No introduction, no smile. He's not just some exec. He's one of the Opry's hidden power brokers. The type of man who never shows up in press photos, but makes the decisions that ruin lives. He doesn't greet her. He scans her coldly, like he's calculating something. Then he says something. A single question Jeannie has never repeated out loud. Not in interviews, not even in her memoir. And her answer didn't matter. Because the visit wasn't about her response. It was a warning. When she walked out of that room 11 minutes later, she didn't say a word. She went to the parking lot, removed her favorite blue sequined dress, the one she wore on stage that night, and set it on fire. No one knew why. A janitor said she just stood there, watching the flames, like she was watching someone die. From that night forward, she never wore blue again. And the Opry? They never mentioned Room 6B, because officially, it never existed. After that night, the punishment came quietly. Her mic, accidentally, wouldn't turn on. Her name was left out of announcements. Her intros shortened. Producers called her difficult. One even pulled her from a Saturday night show and replaced her with a clueless male newcomer who forgot half his lyrics. It wasn't sabotage. It was worse. A slow erasure. And the most terrifying part? They wanted her to think it was all in her head. Jeannie was being gaslit before the word was even mainstream. They told her she was sensitive. They smiled as they shut doors in her face. They made her doubt what she saw, what she heard, what she felt. But Jeannie wasn't just smart. She was strategic. She started writing everything down. Not in a diary, not in lyrics, but on onion skin paper, typed on her old manual typewriter. Each letter dated, each one signed, every note she got, every strange coincidence, every name, every threat, every silence. She hid them in a shoebox, wrapped in a red scarf her mother had given her when she left Pennsylvania. The box had a lock. No one knew the combination, not even her husband. She didn't call it revenge, she called it insurance. Because deep down, Jeannie knew the truth. The Opry didn't want to fire her. They wanted to break her so she'd leave quietly. And if she ever disappeared, if her career mysteriously vanished, if one day she stopped being invited to perform, she wanted someone to know. It wasn't because she wasn't good enough. It was because she knew too much. It happened in the middle of the night. A fire broke out in Jeannie Seely's second home. She woke up choking on smoke. Most of the house was spared, but her bedroom, gone, reduced to ash. And in that bedroom, hidden beneath a floorboard, was the one thing she could never afford to lose: the shoebox. Inside it, every typed letter, every record of what happened backstage, every name, every threat. She ran outside barefoot, heart racing, lungs full of smoke. As the firemen battled the blaze, she whispered one thing to herself: please don't let it be gone. And when the smoke cleared, something unbelievable happened. The shoebox had survived. The lock was scorched. The scarf was melted. But the contents? Intact. It was like something, or someone, refused to let the truth die. That night, she sat on her porch, surrounded by the smell of charred wood and burnt memories, and opened the box for the first time in years. What she read didn't even feel like her life anymore. It felt like a horror story, like something you'd hear about in an industry exposé or a crime docuseries. But it wasn't fiction. It was her. She didn't cry. She didn't scream. She just sat there in the dark and whispered to the wind, "I wasn't crazy." That night changed everything. She knew the box wasn't just her insurance anymore. It was her evidence, and someday soon, someone would need it. Jeannie saw the pattern. She always had. Dottie West, Loretta Lynn, Naomi Judd, all pushed aside when they asked too many questions. labeled unstable, erased. One by one, their careers ended in silence, and Jeannie knew, if she didn't speak, they'd erase her too. She published it herself, quietly, pages redacted, names disguised. But it was enough to make producers step down, enough to get whispers swirling, enough to make young artists knock on her door and say, "I believe you." She didn't want revenge. She wanted the truth to outlive her. So she donated the box, every letter, every name, to a private archive, sealed until someone tries to silence her again. She never got a tribute show. She didn't want one. One day, she just stopped showing up. But something had shifted. Her memoir started circulating backstage. Pages dog-eared, questions asked, whispers returned. And in the rafters of the Opry, a voice still echoed. Not just in memory, but in defiance. When asked what she'd say to the Opry today, Jeannie just shrugged and said, "I gave you my best years. You gave me your rules. I outlived them." She never got a tribute show. She didn't want one. One day, she just stopped showing up. But something had shifted. Her memoir started circulating backstage. Pages dog-eared, questions asked, whispers returned. And in the rafters of the Opry, a voice still echoed. Not just in memory, but in defiance. When asked what she'd say to the Opry today, Jeannie just shrugged and said, "I gave you my best years. You gave me your rules. I outlived them."